recording this session, but I will take out your names and any chat questions. So please feel free to ask them anytime. And I'm going to go live now to share my desktop. Okay. So this is the Discus page that many of you might see. Right now, Discus is not set up so that when you're right away seeing psychology and behavioral sciences collection, you actually have to go into the choose databases. Hopefully we'll get that straightened out by the end of the day. But right now, to get into this particular database, you have to go into choose databases. And you'll see all of the different databases that Discus subscribes to, some of which you might not be familiar with. So today we're going to spend most of our time on psychology and behavioral sciences, as well as academic search Premier. But I did want to also point out that you get some other databases that if you are looking for psychology information in particular, keep some other ones in mind that you might not think about, including Medline Plus, as well as Consumer Health Complete. Consumer Health Complete has a great AHS consumer information. And that has great information if you've ever been prescribed drugs that you might want to look up and see what some side effects are or things like that. So especially for psychology, consumer health has some very good information as well. So I just want to make you aware of that, as well as Health Source Nursing Academic Edition also has good psychology information. And one other one that you might not think about is Professional Development Collection. Hold on one second. Professional Development Collection also has some good information for school counselors, things like that. So, but for right now, let's just talk about the Psychology and Behavioral Sciences collection. Now, this is really good, especially strong coverage in child and adolescent psychology and in various areas of counseling. So, if your institution also subscribes to PsycInfo, the full text is actually provided from this database, but this can also be searched by itself. You don't need to subscribe to PsycInfo. So let's just start with a keyword that many of your students might start with. They want to write a paper because this is paper writing time in this semester, I'm sure. So let's talk about depression. And we'll see 31,000 results. That's a lot of results. So right now, we have it set up so that it's ranked by relevancy. The most relevant articles will be coming up to the top. And you'll see, luckily, the first one is very new, spring 2018. You can also set it up so that you want the date newest. So if you do want only the newest articles on depression, you can set it up that way. But because we got 31,000 results, we can go into here and say, okay, what other subjects do we want to look at? Do we want to look at depression in adolescence, and social in universities and colleges? So I'm going to say I want depression, particularly in college students. Now here you'll notice I did use the asterisk. That'll pick up college student or college students. Now we could also make that, we got 894. And here we could also make it a subject term. The college student has to be a subject term. So let's just take a look at this for a second. And again, you'll notice that psychology of college students is actually a subject heading. And we also notice that anxiety in adolescence, because many college students are still technically in adolescence. So I just wanted to make you aware, looking at those subject headings can help you come up with other search terms that you might want to use. The other thing we can go into subjects. And if we want to search for, okay, what are the actual subject headings for anxiety? And you'll see all of these different subject headings. We might not want anxiety in rodents, but what we can do is explode the term anxiety to see all of the other search terms that we might want to look at, that we might want to include, or we might want to specifically focus on. I might want to look at library anxiety, or you can just say you want all of these things, and by doing that we add them, and then we're getting all of those different subject headings by adding those, or we can choose particular ones that we want to use. So I'm going to go back. I just wanted to point the subject heading out. Now those are different than you're going to find in the PsycInfo thesaurus. These are a little more, they're not quite as specialized as the ones you will find in the PsycInfo thesaurus, but this is a very good way to find the proper subject headings that you're going to be looking for. So again, I can try anxiety or depression and college students particular. Okay, and now I'm getting 1,526. That's a lot. So let's go back and say we only want in the last, say, 10 years worth. And we still have 832. So, and you'll see the types of journals we're getting: social behavior and personality. Here's one called the College Student Journal. So let's go to this one just as an example. And we have, again, the subject headings. This one comes up all automatically to the HTML. And there are just a couple of things that I want to point out why some students might prefer the HTML versus the PDF. Now, one thing you can always do is listen. This listen feature is available across all EBSCO host databases as long as the article is available as an HTML. This can be particularly helpful if you have ESL learners, or some students and faculty just prefer or learn better by listening rather than reading. There are studies that show some people retain information better if they listen. You can also download this as an MP3 so that you can listen, especially if it's a particularly long article, you can listen to this article later. So some people find that very helpful. Again, if you have ESL learners, you can always translate the article into 30 other languages. Again, this can be helpful for a variety of reasons. Now this is as an HTML. Now you'll notice that we also have it set up now to Google Classroom. This can be helpful if any of you work in high schools that do use Google Classroom. I particularly find the Google Drive helpful. I upload things to Google Drive to share with the faculty I work with across the country. So using the Google Drive, you can also add it to your folder. Now this right now is we're sending it to a temporary folder. Until we actually sign into our folder, this is a temporary folder that will disappear at the end of this session. This is always important to remind students of, that when you walk away from the computer, that as a temporary folder, it will disappear. We can print, we can email it, and I really recommend that students email it either as an individual article or email from the folder before they leave the session so that they don't have to come back in 2 weeks and say, where did I find that article? I can't remember. Or they can save it. The citation is right here, which is very nice. It's already put into the proper citation. I do like to always caution students and faculty that there can be issues with this, like is it supposed to be all capitalized? Yes or no? So always double check with those references. You can also export it. This can be good if you're looking, particularly if you're working on a project long term. You can export it to EasyBiz, EndNote, RefWorks, whatever you and your faculty use. And you can create a note. This can be helpful if you do want to upload it to Google Classroom or Google Drive or send it to someone. You can create a note in here. This can be helpful if you want to say, read this article for homework tonight, or you want to ask questions. What do you think about this and this? So your students are prepared with those questions when they come into class the next day. So that is the Create Note field. I also like to point out the permalink. Don't ever send anyone this link up here, up at the top. Always use this permalink. Now this can be helpful if your faculty members are uploading the articles to Blackboard or Canvas or Moodle, or if you're sending it to someone in particular. Now, many faculty just prefer to upload the PDF so they can have their students just read the PDF right there. But it's often, they also like the permalink. And again, here's the listen feature and the translate feature. Now again, this listen and translate is only available as a HTML. But when we click on the PDF, most students are going to prefer the PDF because if they want to cite the article, they want to know which pages they were on, which is not given exactly in the HTML. So most people do prefer the PDF for citation purposes. Now again, Google Classroom, Google Drive, all of these features are the same, but you'll notice there is no translate feature or listen feature. So let's go back to our result list. And I'm just going to put a few more things into my folder. If you don't want Turkish or Australian, we can always add in the term United States. So by adding in the term United States, we're going to narrow down our things and we're going to get more of what we want. So again, I'm going to add more things to my folder, and I can go up to my folder and email them to myself now, or export them again to RefWorks or EasyBib or EndNote. I can also sign into my folder. Now there are a couple of reasons to sign in or create a folder. If you've never created a folder, you create a new account right here. The hardest part about creating a new folder is coming up with a password. You have to have a number and a character. But since I already have one, I'm going to go ahead and log into my folder. And there's a reason why that I like to encourage, especially faculty members and librarians, to create folders. Some students don't want to because it's just another password, so they can just upload everything into their Google Drive, which is also very easy. But for librarians especially, folders can be helpful because if you are working with a faculty or a graduate student or someone who's working on a very long-term project, there are some things you can do where you can actually set up journal alerts and search alerts, but you need to have a folder to actually set these up. So let's go in, and I'm just going to show you very quickly, into publications. So if you know that you have a student or a faculty member who reads Psychology Today every time it comes out, let's do a search for Psychology Today, and we'll see right here, Psychology Today. Now you can search within this publication, or you can set up an email alert or an RSS feed. RSS feeds are especially helpful if you work with LibGuides, say, or you can put them directly into Blackboard or Moodle. So if you know that a particular class wants to be or should be reading Psychology Today every time a new issue comes out, you can embed the RSS feed right into your LibGuide. You can also create an email alert so that you can send the link to the table of contents, or you can link to individual articles. So that you can set it up so that it can go to a faculty member or a student, and they can receive these, so they don't even need to know like keep an eye out on when the next article or when the next journal is coming out, they will just get it sent to their email address. Now again, a faculty member can do this for themselves, or you can set it up for them as once you have a folder, you can create this for other people. And I know the faculty I used to work with were very happy when I would just set up the alerts for them. So you can also search within this publication. So we'll only be searching Psychology Today and anxiety. Oops, if I can spell anxiety correctly. So again, now we can come over to share and create an email alert so that they won't get a notification every time Psychology Today comes out, but they will get notified whenever an article on anxiety in Psychology Today comes out. So again, you can set this up for any search that you want to, but it can be very helpful, especially if students are working on a senior honors project or a master's thesis, and they know that they're going to be doing the same search routinely. Having one of these searches set up can be very helpful. Okay, so we're just going to spend another minute on this particular database. Again, we can go, having this advanced search can also be helpful. If you're not finding enough articles, we're going to set up college students and anxiety, and let's try University of South Carolina. So you only want things that could be, took place at the University of South Carolina, or that's where a faculty member is. We're just using it as a keyword right now. And we came up with 8 results. One thing we can do to add more things right now is only looking for all of these terms in the title, the author, the subject headings, and the abstract. If you want to find more with this, keeping this same search, you can also search within the full text of the articles. So let's run the same search, and now we got 247. Now again, this is I only use this when I'm not finding enough results, because it might just mean University of South Carolina was mentioned once, it might not have taken place at the University of South Carolina, or the word anxiety might just appear once, or college students might just appear once. But again, this is something to use when you're not getting enough results. So are there any questions so far? Okay, a couple of other things that I just want to point out to you. Now we looked earlier at Psychology Today, which is a psychology journal written for the layman. But you can also say, I only want scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. Now, especially this time of year, you might, some faculty members might be having their students writing papers and they say, we only want peer-reviewed journals. So that's an easy thing to show students to limit their results. And again, looking at the subject headings, we can see all the different subject headings. Now, just so you know, I don't click on the subject headings over here. I actually always click on the show more, because once I click on one of these over here, it will only take me to the particular subject heading. By clicking on show more, I can click on multiple results. Okay, now we're going to go back up to here where it says Psychology and Behavioral Science, choose databases. So you'll see all of the different databases that you have access to. So we can choose to search Psychology and Behavioral Sciences with Academic Search Premier. But I do just want to point out that when you are searching both of them at the same time, oops, let's do a new search. When you're searching both of them at the same time, you have less field codes, or less when you pull down choices to choose from right here. But I want to point out something over here. All of the field codes across all EBSCO host databases are usable in all of the different databases, even when they don't show up as field codes for that particular database. So I'll give you an example. If I go over to help, and I scroll down all the way, and this help button is great because if you ever have any questions about Boolean searching, ands and ors, using truncation symbols, what this folder is for, anything like that, all of this is here. But down at the bottom where it says database help, I'm going to click on Academic Search Premier. It gives us each database we're looking in separately. And this is a really great information when you want just information about this particular database. So one of the things that I like is this Searchable Fields. The Searchable Fields button is extremely helpful because you'll notice when you pull down, I'm just going to move it for a second, you see these, oops, sorry. Here are the searchable fields that it's showing me, but there are actually a lot more available. And if we go down to, again, Academic Search Premier, and we go to Searchable Fields here, you'll see you actually have a lot more choices that can be really, really helpful for power users. So I'll just give you some examples, and this definition of fields is very helpful as well. So as an example, we're right now searching psychology and behavioral and Academic Search Premier. So I'm going to say I want the author affiliation from the University of South Carolina. And I want it to be about depression or anxiety. But it has to be with a professor who works at the University of South Carolina. Now, I did put University of South Carolina in quotes, and I just want to point that out. Otherwise, it's looking for the word university and South and Carolina. So for something like this, I would definitely put the university or college in quotes if you know where the author that you want is working. The other thing I want to point out is that it's where the professor was working when they wrote the article. If they then move to a different university, say they move to University of North Carolina, this particular article will always say University of South Carolina. So if you know a professor has moved around a bit or they wrote something when they were graduate students, you can always look for both. So let's just take a look in here. And one of these people, well, it doesn't have to be all of them, one of these people will have been a professor at the University of South Carolina. Now you'll notice all of the, oops, let me go back there for a second. All of these will look exactly the same as they did having the Google Classroom, the Google Drive. So it doesn't matter which EBSCO host database you are in, it is all the same. So just a couple of things as we're coming to an end. Please let me know if you have any questions, because we did go very quickly through here. Again, when you click up here to subjects, you'll now get two different subject thesaurus. So I just want to point that out. They do have different subject headings. Most of them are going to be the same in these two particular databases. Like I said, if you're using a database like PsycInfo, PsycArticles, you'll find much more specific subject headings. And again, looking for publications is, you have to search them separately. But here, when you're doing keyword searching and things, you're searching for all of them. So I'm just going to do one more quick search just to show you some of those other field codes that can be really helpful when you're looking for very specific information, when you're not just casting a wide net. If you know that you're looking in particular for a book review, PZ just means type. So I'm limiting it to just book reviews. And then I want book reviews. So this will give me articles by or about Professor Rushforth's book. So I can do a quick search. And you'll see I got 31 results. But I do want to point out, this can be particularly helpful if you're looking to help a faculty member who has a book written and they're looking for all of the book reviews written about their book. But I did want to point out here, Professor Rushforth is not named as the author because the author of the book review is this person. They're named as a person. So I just always like to point that out. So if you only want articles, not that he wrote, not that Brett Rushforth wrote, but about his book, you can use people, Rushforth, and then you will get book reviews only about his books or by another person named Rushforth. Luckily, he's the most popular. So I do want to point that out, that just because you don't see it as a pull-down option here, going over here to the help button can really help you improve and narrow your results. So are there any questions so far? Okay, in the next 3 minutes, I'm just going to show you very quickly 2 more things that you might want to look at, and one is search history. This can be helpful if you're working with a student for a very long time. Say you're working with a student for, say, 25, 30 minutes, and you're thinking to yourself, what were we searching before that we got such good results with? So you can always come here and see exactly what you were searching. And you can rerun those searches, and you can edit those searches, or you can also combine these searches. Now, if you have a folder, you can also save your search history right here. So this can be helpful if you know you're going to be working on it again in 2 weeks. This can be a good way to help you just remember what you were searching before. Okay, so before we go, I did just want to show you how to get more help. If you do have any questions, again, my email is mhiggins@ebsco.com. And please feel free to email me at any time. But you can also always just go to support.ebsco.com and find more helpful resources. So if you're looking for a particular one on academic search, if you want academic search premier, and things like search fields, promotion kits. So these promotion kits can be helpful to help you promote the database. Since Discus subscribes to it, how can I promote it to my students so that they will continue to use it? You can find all types of sources at EBSCO Help, and it's support.ebsco.com. So I'm going to stop recording now. So hold on 1 second.